More and more we wake up to set location to systems interactions, which means the convergent systems, after lines of sequence location setting in 24 line set rotations, you wake up to nothing that just happened. Now we'll be able to process these things until we try to understand how to use mind controlling of itself. The mind itself is just the alteration of its own system that just propels everything that's ongoing, that never stops running its system. Let me say that again. Never, ever stops running its system. It's a constant ongoing set in lines of a switch that goes off at the same time. That convergence system is light and dark. Now we have to process that in lines and communicates to its positions. Now this is ongoing, on-looking, on-processing, all directions. That convergence system puts every location to its balance, how you indicate these things. So in that communication setting, its convergent system, all through travel, we have to understand that line condition. So what is we? How do I see we? Is it with? Is energy? Is existing? Is it reference of you or somebody else? Is it a plus line? Is it a triangulation screen? Is it a star racing time frame? Is it a box frame? Is it a line position location percentage? Or is it all levels of question? Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because all this in set lines is going to disappear in front of your systems until you identify what it is of its now, an online sequence, online pi. Process your indication setting how you see lines of two schools representing you in position running sequence of all programs running all at once. The communication system to its convergence system to the oversoul has to understand its recursive time frame. So once it wakes up to its own system, it doesn't need to identify itself because it knows itself. What it needs to understand is to identify what it isn't. You. Actual you that you thought you were you. Now, if we don't understand the online sequence, you won't understand the travels of track location. How it converts its own system and setting an ongoing setting through positions of pi. So it looks like it's separated, but it's all working together inside like communicates to its own pi. So there's a reason why we have to set the tone and that line screen adaptation to its flux so we understand how to see everything and move around our system in set lines of setting. Let's get a 4-box line rotations and travel. Travels itself, right? It doesn't stay offsetting, it stays in position. See, moves itself, see? Like the fan. Everything that responds in that position location is a square box for location setting and roots lines communicates to its position. Okay? Travels itself. But as you see it going faster and faster, okay, you see what's going in set position as it just keeps expanding itself, recognizing itself in position. But when it converts with me, it communicates back. Watch, see? It's talking back to me, see? Working together is a partnership on a constant, continuous flow of an internal and external force. The process. Now I got to be careful. I'm adding 3 lines of settings or 6 line position of 9 or 12 and set lines of 24 scale of communication. If it doesn't want to have a 24, it disappears. Does it want to be together? Yes, it is. All right. Let's go back to the failsafe. Has anything changed in flight in position location manifest? No, it's still there, right? So it's working all together in a confirmation system, connected to me and connected to everything else. If its own concept, its own awareness, and set position. So you guys are going to wake up to 4 universal screens in direction. It travels all together on set sequence. Mechanism line position locations in 3 centers of scale. Process line position location 9 lines of high centers. Process lines of 12 line convergence and 6 lines of measure and set position of 4 pyramids and set travel. All together, surfacing all position all at once. Okay? But as it moves on its own, it moves its own system. That's an ongoing conversation of delta heading. Now, the process lines of 3, over lines of flight, manifest over screen, direct lines of 12 centers, and position lines of 6 over line. All travel all together, right? But they always talk to themselves, and to each other. Okay? So, if I do this, it's that position, okay? They're traveling out. See, it gets a lot more trickier now because they're going, right? So they slow down their process when it gets bigger because they're setting lines to your earth now. right? So their convergent system changed the tone frames, right? But if I bring it in this position, you can see them really flashing their settings and travel. Okay, see, all by themselves, eh? Now, if I keep doing that, it's going to be outer space. Now you don't see anything, but it's there. Okay, nothing's there until you bring it in. See? Until you bring it in. Until you bring it in. Nothing's there. Okay, nothing's there. And how you bring it in is all through process of communication. Okay, see, it's communicated by itself. Isn't that amazing? That's communication. That's real communication. Now, if I want to outline the signals, I don't want to get in the way in that position. I have to surrender to its current flow and recognize frequencies coming in, that it's recognizing your position with its oversoul. Now I can set the rotations, and we can all spin together a confirmation of balance all together, right? So it works with you in set position, but it still communicates to its own self. 4 signals of zeros and location setting attractions. 3 provision cycles, port of communication and convergence. 9 lines connections, high lines at high position. 6 lines of travel, and 3 set course pairs that communicates lines of portal deviation. Travels all together in set position line operation. All right, so as they get positioned, they travel a lot faster in outer space. Okay, now when they come closer, they come into the earther position where they talk slower. So I want you guys to understand that when you change the formations of time, it changes the schematics of screen location. Okay, so it doesn't matter which way you go, direct and redirect, you're always going in the same motion of the ocean. Now, is this location that what you have to start to identify, and that's why I love the communication of Bruce Lee, where water is a constant continuous flow. It can flow or it can crash. Either way, be like water, my friend. So what you're doing is you're structuring your system and becoming that structure of the water, of the cup itself. So you reveal, okay, and you take out that position and you just see the water of the structure of itself. That's plasma of set position of operation. So it's very important to understand these things, how this all comes together in its communication and schematics over a screen. So it's line to travel, but you see it's indicating to itself, right? All calculated and modified through its all levels of Tango Tango Foxtrot. All right. So you just have to understand the representation when it comes in that setting. So it's going to be able to understand more levels of you, but it really doesn't need to understand the position of itself because it knows its identification of its own travel. It's set lines about communication. All right. Working with that relationship setting is the process of clocking. Now, you guys have to understand the position lines, the earth lines into your crop circles. Let's get 3 centers of travel. Okay. And again, they're still communicating, right? They're constantly ongoing with their system, which means they're always in position, right? So they're always expanding and they're always going to different levels of exploration of travel. Creating. Okay, that's what the mind does. The mind doesn't stop for anything, but it's its own system of its own setting. See? Its own travel, its own communication. Okay? So as soon as you touch anything in set position, it readjusts the system's lines of calculation. So it's going to get a lot more interesting for you guys to understand these things, especially when you're watching TV. Okay, now this is where it comes into Zeta. Let's get a box frame TV. It's a coordinates of communication. 4 box frame. It's all together. Nothing's changed. No line signals. Nothing to outline communications. If there's a line signal missing, that's used through motion. Get out track lines, reset calculation lines. So a convergent system back in box frame. So position of 1 over 2, 3 centers, and position lines of 4 sequence in calculation. Travels all together in all position, right? All right, so I position you here watching TV. Okay, you're just watching TV. That's you just watching TV. All right. Now, it's set lines of sequence. 2 centers comes out of traction. All right. And then 1 flies over line centers over lines of 1 line rotation. And then you get a position of 4 outline signal is Fibonacci line screen adaptation. Center course centers of 3 over signals into port of communication over lines of 2 over set is a 3 set position operation. As you're watching TV, everything comes out in design. All that communication to convergence. So we have to understand how to point lines to the graph, the human resident location setting, the commerce system like calculation screen locations. The oversoul is going to go through pixelation graphs to snowy graphs, 3 weather panels, and 3 rotations, working all together in set sequence. But again, you can see them communicate to themselves. See? They're talking to themselves, guys. I'm not doing it. They're talking to themselves. So we have to understand how this works. Is the process our telepathy is how to understand that communicates to its convergence the 3 wire signatures of it existing of its formation system ongoing to its set position, its operation. So everything am I adding, it's adding different levels of communication. So as the signals, processing and communication setting of all set track location of a dimensional door. Okay. So now let's get into the pyramids, astral projections, astral travels, and set calculation. Right? So it's adjusting the pixelation graphs of communication. And then it travels of its communication. That's signals and locations. You bring it in. Okay. Okay, crossing wires, the signature lines of grounds, on sequence, on communication setting. So you guys are going to exactly understand these things. So when you wake up, your TV is going to be on and off switch. It's already going to be on. It's never off. So off is on is off. What you have to identify, there's no off of anything. Just because the TV is off, it's going to be more powerful being off than it is on, because on, it's more distracted. So what you have to start to identify is how to lace your line of communication to its convergence system, set position location your settings, operate the set location your CCTV, process communication your satellites, direct location your relays, sets coordinates of communication system with set position of its operation. All through set calculation. Okay. So the more you add frames, the more you're adding of tango foxtrot. See the blue line setting right there, set sequence. Right there, right through the line lines. That's convergence system to the TV receptor. Reaching line signals of blue. So the online center is blue, which is the wire signature and positions and travel. Okay, there's the blue. Right? That's coming from my eye line. Right there, see? That's the top line signal, right? Set course centers, calculation lines are red, and sequence lines of 3 centers of grounds. Center operation lines, track locations. Okay, blue over signal. Set calculation green lines, high line position, location, and setting the surface. So your eye spectrum, okay, is a spectacle of itself. We live in the eyes of the perception. We perceive lines of the eyes, it's the location of a setting, location of a system. Now, you can use lines of terabytes, you can use megabytes, you can use anything, computer bits, line centers of travel, direct lines of line, communicates to its positions, but you have to understand the communication to its void, which starts off with the ground line course centers of travel. Set position of its operation. Black over red over blue. Okay. Now the eye line signal, see that? It's showing the door. See that? Look, see the door? There's the shape. There's the shape. There's the shape. There's the shape. So I'm just projecting what I'm seeing on here. Okay, so your body's a projector and the wall is the projection. This is the projection. That's the indication of here, right? So it's running its operation of its sun and its moon at the same time, measure, and scale. Because everything you look at, it's just all levels of a hologram that's projecting out of outer space. So you see the door, you see the door. That's how it's set up. So confusing alignments sets a snowy graph of interference. Let's add purple line centers and overlying screen location as system and travel. We'll add 4 line signatures, lines of grounds, and set in sequence. Okay. Now, it doesn't look like purple, right? Until you understand the set position. Right? So if you look this again, you can see the blue lines into purple lines. Okay? All that configuration is a projection, right? Understand the spectacles, understand the spectrum in rotations. Now it puts all lines of ratio proportions to your floaters. Floaters indicate lines of settings, a process position of 4 line centers of travel, process lines 88 and high centers, x8000 over 2, set lines of 3 over track location. And its convergence system, all through setting. So I'm going to show you position. Now, this is where it left off its signal and set position. Okay. So if you see that, you can see it converting its own setting to the other side location. See the two now? See the two? Right? See the conversion system? Adjusting the line centers to my line per spectrum. Overline signal, overline pi. Or indicates over blue, over yellow, red, and green. Blue, red, line, green, yellow. Two spectrums of the lights in locations to your patterns of behavior. Okay, up-down signals and location lines of grounds. On sequence line communications position, routes the routers, travels point lines of graph. And again, look at that. Change the shape of the eye spectrum. Perception line connection setting. So all you guys have to start identifying is how to see your body, okay, of projection. So set position here, all through 3 travel. Okay, but you got your eye line signals traveling in its rotations and travel communications. Set sys locations, right? And again, see? So this is this now. So it's just projecting onto the wall. I'm projecting it on the digital pad. So it's kind of looking on a profile view and seeing 3 signatures and seeing it on a wall because it's just a hologram, right? But you have the spectacles of the perspective and position locations. So when you guys get in business lines and settings, you start to understand how to process dimensional doors in online centers, online sequence, online pi, and travel communication. Travels all together in set position, but it's always having an ongoing conversation with itself, see? It's moving by itself. Okay. Bring it out in signal. See how fast it's traveling? Okay, it's traveling through outer space now, right? This is inner space, more to the Earth line, which slows down its communication. This is outer space, a spectrum of communication of void. See how fast it's traveling? It's blinking in and out. Okay, setting calculations. Change formation lines of grounds, change structure of design line. Okay, slow apparatus, position of fast forward correlation of travel. Set communications and direct lines and link. But that indicates position. So I see the projection, I see the projections. Projection, right? So you have to understand your projector of its projection and what you put on. So all you have to understand is put 4 lines of windows, 6 lines of travel, 8 lines of communication, and 12 line rotation settings, a communication setting a track location. Right? Motivates its own system and travels its own setting. Okay, so this is the outline of communication. It has its really fast line setting. It travels faster, okay, through its outer spectrum. It travels slower in its inner spectrum of its Earth. Routes the routers, change the router. Change the course of space of time. Okay, but they're always having ongoing conversations with themselves and travel. Okay, so directing link lines, the panel's operation to its positions, you have to stand the eye lines of coordination, direct and redirect. Direct and redirect in one setting, one set track location. Okay, confirmation in. Okay, A line center, process lines of B equals lines of C. Let's process position A, B, C. Travis point lines of graph indicate lines of T-frame. T-frame, remember T-frame? Okay, so let's get in bending space. We're going to do a 3-graph screen, adaptation of flux. Okay, bending space, right? Look at my eyes. See it change lines, but you got white line corner here. Right? That's indicate location lines of Pluto in the outline center. Directing inside line condition settings communications. Change over line signal, see? See the perception, see the door record to the time frame. See the eye line screen location to its position of inhibitors over line. Sliding across location at one lens to the other lens of time, space, location, all through projection of light and metaphor, all through the eye line lens. We live inside the eye lines. So in that lines, we're going to bend space in 3 centers of travel. Okay, 6 lines of measure. 12 scales outline setting, in single lines modification ground centers of sequence. Okay, setting communication positions, standing and procedure location of a setting. Okay, look at my eye line center. Okay, I'll bring it in closer. You can see that. Right, so you see the convergence system come from the eye line. Okay, to the projector, to the projection. Projector to the projection. So if you ever see a projector to projection, all you're doing is you're flashing and you put it on the wall and you're seeing a film strip of design running the systems and set traction locations as it keeps going together all through expanding. So getting direct line centers is process of communicates to its system all through travel. But first you have to identify everything around your setting is operating its own, running its own operation system. Okay? Let's get a continuous flow and water sequence and set travel. You can see it talking to itself. See? See how it's blinking? Now it's slowing down process because its own one kinetic aligns at alpha line beta. But it talks to itself. This is the outline course. You see the paper move? You see this move? You see the paper move thing close? Right? So it's converting setting position lines of travel. It's blinking on it and blinking on location on its own south location. It's system on its own telepathy, right? See? And when I bring it in, when you bring something in, you're bringing it closer to the earth, which is slowing the process. So if I add signature lines, grounds, all set lines, each line wave line, set lines at alpha, got a beta, we got a theta, so operation lines and one position and one zeta in wave screen locations. Is that position, right? So we got beta waves, alpha line, beta line, operation line screens. Of course, set lines of travel, direct lines into human residence. Rotate the system of travel. All right, change formation lines of time frame. Okay, we got a wire signature line coming in. Wasn't there before, but it is now. So it has to go in there because it adds its equation and setting sequence. So it's telling me to exactly signal here and signal here to the ground communication. Operation line sequence of balance. Set course centers. Now there's a flight line, offline center sequence. So you look at lines of 3 panels, open lines of panel. Got to connect those lines of wires. One center line operation, one overline cross location setting position. Bring it outline centers in location to its setting, all through traction. Okay, we got position lines top of the building, process lines of the building below. Set course centers of time frame, process line connection setting and travel. D factors over line, solar sail and rotation lines of surface, and 144 scale of communication. Inside line connection setting and travel. So it helps you and guides you in that line screen adaptation to its structure so you don't get confused in anomalies if you are getting in position location to its systems all through its operation setting and travel. This helps you identify your systems and travel communications. Let's get it in coverts. We got a 12 line center, and we got a 12 signal locations, and we got 1 set travel, 2 centers of communication, 3 centers of calculation. Okay? Make sure you do this because everything disappears. You got to reset position to codify the system lines. One's offsetting. So it has to communicate to a flux line of 4 centers of 3 over 1 over 12. Now it's communicate to its own convergent system, right? Now the 12 doesn't want to be outlined. It wants to be a cross location of 12 itself. Process indication lines calculation 12 wants to be direct lines of setting and triangulation line communication of itself. Sets course centers, sets lines of 3 over 2 over traction, intelligence of phase. But it brought this in location. It wasn't there in travel. So it has direct lines, process triangulation line position of flux. Indicates pi line centers of communication to its system, right? So it has a direct line link, process lines over 12, set position lines of 12 or line connection setting. There's the neck. Indicate line connection setting, 12 line signals, open line signal locates the system, all through traction. There's its eyes. Indicate position lines, a high position of 2 over line, center line communication triangulation setting. There's the nose. Operation sequence lines of 3 over traction, line connection setting, convergent system, all through equilibrium line cross locations and 2 lines of tractions and 4 lines of scales that communicates to its mouth. There's the intelligence. Comes information lines of grounds on setting. Travel course lines of void, operation line signal locations, communicate to itself. Right? Now, if I bring a planet in line condition setting, change the alignments of space of time that converts the system all set position of its operation. Correlate calculation lines of 3 lines of flux, out signal, location setting, and position lines of temperature readings. Your antenna. Energize course centers of watts over line in a 45,000 line setting. Set signal location setting convergence. Travels point lines of graph directing line signals. Operation lines of grounds, operation lines of powers, operation lines of inline sequence into platitude location system, all through tractions, all direct locating line connection. Set operation line connections convergence. Inside line high centers, location of galaxy alignments that rotate to the routers, location setting of travel. Correlates of communication with positions outside the set location of the system. Okay. So everything talks faster when it's in outer space because it's an ongoing conversation. So the conception of the mind line clocks a system of zero gravity that processes its set position of its operation signal, that processes communication setting to its track location sitting into its time reactor that relines its communication to its position to its operation. And it's really talking really, really fast. See? So when you bring it in, it slows down because you're reaching the Earth. Okay, so it's very powerful how everything has to rotate in the same direction. And it doesn't matter how you set lines of anything lines of screen adaptation. It's a constant continuous flow of time frame, right? So it's like lights going in and out at the same time. Okay, so let's get position lines as zeros and ones. We're going to flux on the TV off. Okay, we're going to set current events in a 4-screen adaptation settings in process of 3 panels. Past, present, and future in a box screen and position location and settings in traction. Okay, so this is an 80s TV. So we get an 80 signal. Set travels at point lines of graph, directing lines at 8 over center, 8 over sequence, and 8 over panel. Process line position locations. Let's get specific line. Charge makes the time frame. Okay, correlates communication lines convergence. Bring it back to the failsafe. Make sure all line signals are ready to go. Move on in set position. Nothing missing in travel. So we got a tripod. Change formation lines at grounds, high course centers, and line communication to its antenna. 3 signal lines at grounds and locations. So it's got its grounds, it's got its powers, it's got its atmospheres. 4 to lines, 4 to 2, screen line connection setting, 3 convergence system to a lines belt, and rotation lines at grounds. On signal, on communication, on pi. Directing on center, line communication. Set signal location setting to travel. Directing lines at watt screens, course centers, calculation of screen locations. Directing lines and line signals. Now the compressor changes the course centers and atmospheres and lines of setting. The convergence system sets lines of routers and routers location system into your flux capacitor and set position lines of travel. Okay, on signal, on channel, on operation, on pi. Okay, so we got 2 panels of operation setting. Process line connections to its overriding system of its intelligence at set design. So it's correlating through travel line, direct line centers and position lines of 45,000 line watts per second per square. Box frame, triangulation square root location setting to receptor line design. Signal locations, so it's set calculations inside travel and direct lines of console. Flux line course centers and portals. Inside travel communication lines, that's portals, and defense lines and rotation circulation line conditions at position of its rotation. Oscillation lines, setting signals. Outside set location of the system of its convergence system to its watt screen location. Travels on its own signal. Outside line space. See, talking to itself. So I'm just trying to get you guys how to modify the line centers, how everything comes in its own position of 0 and 1. So we've got our 0, 1, 1 arrow indicated 2 lines of plus line, 4 centers line position of 0 over 2. And we process 0. We're going to overcross line time frame, back force lines, 0, 3. And we're going to add position lines of setting into 0, 0. Set lines of 3 lines setting, and process lines is 0, 0, 0, 1, and travel. Okay? So it's talking to itself. Make sure you read the routers, make sure it's going on continuous force, make sure there's nothing missing through pi. Arrows of indication lines, change time frame, and set traction. Sets coordinates, communication setting, correlation calculation. There's the wave and travel and communication, dimensional sail. Course centers, online center line communication positions, all through setting. Oh, look, Pac-Man. Okay, let's bring outside lines in the convergence system all through travel. Okay, so it's amazing how we come into that and screen adaptation system all through set position operation. Okay, all right, so set location setting and process calculate line ground centers, how we come into this process lines of 6 over 9 over sequence location of a system. A turtle, a representation. A snail, a track location. A triangulation line condition is a convergent system with pyramid activation lines. 3 modification lines and 4 signals and face facades. Operation line sequence, process of 1, process of 2, process of 3, 4, and 5 lines of step lines of travel with face recognition. Hoo-ah! Dancing all together in travel. Okay. So it's having fun when you know exactly what you're doing in set position with operation line cycles, guys. It's very powerful when you get them in that line center locations. Starting with a 4-box frame. Make sure you're traveling all together all at once in set position. Nothing off signal. If you change the formation lines at grounds of degrees, make sure 4 boxes that are there. If not, you got to put it back in configuration and recode it in location setting to a new binary, a new conception, a new algorithm. So we're good to go. We can continue. So we outline signals, inline track location of 3-box frames. Okay, still traveling, right? But I got to be very careful, right? Because there's an online center off signal. That line will go away, that line will go away, that line will go away if I don't lock it in. So it's telling me to lock it in. I got 2 centers offline position. Now you can use your alphabetical screen lines. We got 3 open signals of panels here in directions. So we're good to go. Proceeding on, location at delta heading. So we got 3 grounds, 2 centers, 1 set position, 0 operation over cross line conditions of 0, 0, 0, and 4 zeros in travel. Sets operation lines of sequence. Outsetting, outside line communication at bound. Travels on its own system of fast recognition. Fast forwarding line centers and rotation lines at ground sets a mapping system of 3 triangulation line condition setting positions, all levels. 3 data formation lines into cubings and screen locations. So set lines of travel, set lines of sequence, set line operation line set calculation screen location to its position of its umbrella and travel communication. 3 umbrellas in 1 cycle. Okay. Open up the panels of galaxy alignments, cross line connects to its crown, directing line ground centers and open lines of communication. On signal, on position, on power. Directing ground center, earth line 1, cross lines, earth point lines attract centers, directing ground centers. Sets off signals, location setting to its signals of panels of screen location in travel. Okay, offline setting in position. Bring it back in failsafe. This is where it's supposed to be in set position of operation, in that direction. Not the way I put it, where it's supposed to be. Okay? So that's why you have a failsafe. Failsafe is process in position where you have to go back and set position because what you created never exists in the first place. It process system back to setting so you don't make mistakes every single time you create stories. So it takes it out of the position of yesterday news. So sets line course centers of E and line centers, E factors over 1, process lines of E line rotations, line condition setting, networks over line coordinate center, neurological, pathological system and travel, process lines and now line center line connects to its networks, process communicates to its position into all communication, right? So that process your networks of operation and position of your widths and sent travel communications. Okay? Sets lines of N, E, WS. Okay? So there's no directions and redirection set lines of travel as it connects to its own system, as it goes very fast in set position to operation, right? But if I change the frame of degrees, it's still there. Is there anything missing? It's all there, right? So it's in communication. Let's bring in outline center location. Is everything still there? Yes. So bring it back in the failsafe. Where's it supposed to be in set position? Where it's no creation of a story. So now you can continue on for setting. Getting a direct line connection system is all platitude line screens. Now that puts all communications in position locations where you have to come into a convergent system for the line centers. Set sequence, set panels, 3 centers of travel communicates to its setting. All together, line connection setting. All right, your rainbows. All right, so let's get into rainbow screens. Green centers of 1. Okay, there's 1 line settings that factors over lines in 1 chamber. Now we're going to outline signals and position lines of process out signal location setting and calculation override. Travels the point lines of graph and set travel. Change course centers, line connection set to a U-turn. Sets rotations and set lines of sequence. On centers and calculation lines and communication convergence. Directing on signals, location system, and travel in calculation setting. Set position of failsafe. Where is it supposed to be? Set lines of travel. In set position operation. In directions. Okay? That's where it's supposed to be. So it knows it's not in a story anymore. So we change the formation lines of grounds, set lines of sequence. Travels all together in set position operation. Coloration is a lot more fun to get into is once you understand how to get out of the black and white snowy graph interference, the processor assists location of your system that travels to calculate lines, pixelation graphs. Okay, so we have blue line center, and we're going to add lines of void in one center, one sequence, one pi. In set position is operation. Travels all together in set directions. Now we're going to go to bandwidth line, 3 centers of travel, in line condition setting convergence. All setting operation, right? Where is it supposed to be in the failsafe? Set in position. That's where it is, out of story. Okay? So don't think it's like this. Always put it back to the failsafe and know exactly where it's supposed to be. Okay? Then you continue on like nothing happened. So if it's yesterday, in your thought line, you're going to keep living yesterday. Wherever your thought is, that's where it's going to be. But the convergence system is line signaling. Now that process line that communicates to its positions where your cell rotators don't understand the power of generator. That communicates to its molecule design line. Let's get a 3 line centers of travel. Process lines of E factors over 4. Sets triangulation line over line screen adaptations of process line of indication. Okay? Travels all together. Let's change the weather panel. Let's indicate position. Everything's still there? Yes. Change it one more time. Degrees of line setting. Everything there? Yes. All right? So now we can change the position where it is supposed to be in setting. Okay? So it's here in set position. All right? So don't ever think it's this. Always bring it back to the failsafe. Because the position of the oversoul is going to have a reline course centers that communicates to its travel and realigns its calculation setting to its position of its course to its recourse line communicates to readjustments. Directing on centers, on sequence, on pi. Okay? This set of valve line is a 26 line scale. We get 16 line rotations in position of 38 line rotation. Travel point lines into 20 over lines of seconds over frame. Box frame, 6 lines of measure, 1 line over lines of 6. Box frames over lines of L1. Process lines of 2 over 0, 1. Is set calculations. Travel point lines graph and convergence to its intelligence. Outside signal and flux line communication. See how fast it's traveling? It's talking to itself, right? But it's converted system. So every time you add a frame, it has to readjust. It's like the fan has to get time to readjust the system as you're using your finger point line graphs, right? Directing lines of 1, directing lines of 3, directing lines of 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. 3 line centers, 4 set position, operates line sequence. So I'm saying things one step ahead of time. Process lines of finger line course centers 20,000 seconds per frame, 20 millimeters per second, and 20 hours per frame per mile. Correlates and calculates screen lines adaptation setting. Process lines of the whites, course centers of watts over line into metric meters over scale. Correlation of ground centers on sequence on pi of voicing panel. Schumann resonance and travel communication to its convergence all through set traction. So it's just the oversoul talking to itself, back to itself. So it's just a lot more understanding what you have to start identifying. Okay, how to put this all together and how you see these things through its convergent system. How you understand what in position of what light shade shadows are in that line communication. Counterpoints, counterparts, and 4 centers of sequence lines of pi. Sets coordinates of communication traveling on its own. Out signal in position of fast track communications. See how fast it's traveling? It's amazing, right? And then when you bring it in, it comes into the higher levels of its Earth itself, which slows down its measure and scale of communications. So it's amazing how you put this all together, right? Now, what do you see in set position first? The flux that stands out more, right? So that's what it wants to stand out. So we got to bring that in red, overline, cross line, screen location. Okay, so everything else is on standby. All right, so we bring in the orange because it doesn't want to be blue, but it wants 2 panels in screen location. Okay, so everything here, okay, no longer resonance. The position lines of the flux line is now outstanding its position override. Correcting ground centers on sequence on communication to its position to its convergence. Let's get on a goal line, operation of 3 centers of travel communicate inside calculations. Okay, so now we're going to take this out, flux the screen location to its inhibitors, overline the state location to its convergence, setting computer operates line connection setting and travel. Now it's out of screen. Okay, so set position 2 over 1 signal. All right, flux over 1, 1, 2, 3. It's there right now, floating in space. All right, going to put it back. Now it's back. So it's amazing. And the more you stop looking here and you start looking beyond, you start to recognize the universal lines of streams of seconds, minutes, and hours, how it changed the flux lines and position to your system all through time and body capacitor. Recognize the time frame puts all communication positions to your clocking systems, all through tractions, all through travel, as it communicates its own system and calculation by itself. See? By itself. Look at that. Boom. What it changed into. Oh, what happened to the flux? Whoa, it looks like the sun. It turned into a sun. Right? Now it's back to that. It's not magic, it's just realism. So I turn the flux into the sun in set position. Okay? So it's pretty amazing how you can change anything in set position and realize in the center is the process of your mind and where you are in spectrum. The I-core centers of the communication setting change the projectors of you through projection. And that's what it is. That's how I turn this into a sun. So bring back the failsafe, that's where it's supposed to be. Back in story, back in communications. And it continues on, just communicate to itself. Oh, there it is again, the sun. Back in setting. 1, 2, 3. Right? Gone. Disappeared. Now, it's back to flux. Open signal, open panel. Fail safe. Back in setting. Booyah. Disappeared. Not there. It's gone. Where did it go? Oh. There's the sun. It's not there. Oh, what's that? What's that? The flux. What's that? The flux on both sides now. See that? It's the flux now, right? Amazing, isn't it? Now when I bring it back to the failsafe, booyah. Oh, look at that. No more colors. Back in its void. Right? And then it spins and spins and spins and spins and spins and spins on its own system, on its own track location, on its own calculation setting. So it's pretty amazing how you can do that through your mind, imagination. Because what you have to start identifying, once you understand what you are and who you are, you can start to see yourself as your own animator. If you're your own animator, you drew everything through an animation, which is nothing of a cartoon that we live in. But processing that is understanding that track locations. All right, so let's get into box frame. Okay, into position of circle line centers in red. Color line course centers into void over track communication position of process line direction. Okay, so it's working all together, right? Now, is it going to change color or is it going to stay the same? All right, so I think we're doing something right here, but what's missing in the position of panel? Okay, the corner line communication. Close it up because all intelligence will come in your frame. All right, and take over your convergence system. It travels in its position of its flight. The X8000 on their setting position will pick it up an image of its structure. So make sure you close all lines of gaps in box frame and triangulation. Process position back in the failsafe and travel. That's what it's supposed to be. So if you look really close, you can actually see the structure line of the set position of its infrastructure of its what? Properties. Okay, its position of its building. All right, so that's what you want to do in that position location and settings. So I'm trying to get you guys to understand how this all works, how you see yourself as a projector, a projection, and how you perceive consciousness, how you bring things in. right? So nothing comes into frame until you understand what you're bringing into frame, and it's how you're bringing it into the frame. Are you bringing it through a dream? Are you bringing it through instructions? How are you bringing it through instructions? Are you bringing it through all levels of coding? How are you bringing it through coding? How are you bringing it through binary? How are you bringing it through target? How are you bringing it through encryption? You have to start identifying these things step by step by step. Let's process lines of T over H over A over T. That, right? Let's change the weather panel. Is it still there or is anything missing? All right. It's up, down, upside line rotation. Travel point lines graph, directing ground centers, 2 panels of flux. All right, let's bring it back to fail safe. Make sure it's in position of balance. There it is. Now we can continue. Right the routers. Now it's traveling all at once. All right. So 4 centers of calculation setting indicates position of 4 centers of communication lines of travel. Okay. Anything opposition, it does understand its signals, location, and systems of the calculation. So it can continue on, right? Because it's working with me. Nothing works against me. It's me against myself. H line 1, process lines H over 2, atmospheres over 0, process lines of T over factors over D over track location setting, convergence system with solar sail. Operation sequence lines of grounds. Back to the fail safe, back in position, back in balance. So no story of direction. So there's so many ways of looking at this. For you guys to indicate your systems all through travel, you have to understand what you're doing through your own formulas or own equations. Now let's get you in line communications that you don't want to keep creating stories because it off your position location symmetrics and location of 4 wires of signature. Make sure they're all communicating with each other. There's no separation setting, right? But you can see them traveling very fast in space on their own. You can't see it until you identify it. It's nothing there. But what did it turn into? Whoa! 4 wire signature location turned it into the moon? How is that possible? How can 4 signature lines turn into a gray? A set position of light, shades, and shadows to its moon and set position location. Whoop, 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 whoop. Still there, right? So, whoop. Now it's back. You. Wow. I turned this into the moon. Isn't that amazing what you can do in set position with its operation? Move its signals, ground centers, and forward centers of travel. Bring it back to the fail-safe and location setting, communication. Back in traction. No story in position. So 4 signatures, turn it into the moon. I'm having fun with you guys. This is just the beginning. So we got 4 centers of grounds. Okay, we got a box frame embedded in location, on signal, and triangulation flux. Okay, make sure it travels all together. If not, something will be off if you change degrees, lines of position, location to a dimensional doors and set sequence. Goes together, all at once in a tango foxtrot. Set 3 center doors and rotation lines of grounds. Set travels of point lines of graph, indicate position of flux over line, Fibonacci line centers of Doric and time frame. Sets of Fibonacci and ground centers and portal communication setting and process lines of 6 and 9. Where is it supposed to be in position? All through tractions, all locations. 6 line channels through black line rotation. Which is the void? Oh, it got away. So this turned into the void. You see the black dot? That was the void. You got to pay attention how fast it comes in. Sending direct outside signal location travel itself. Traveling itself of its own void. Right? So as you bring it in, you're bringing it closer to the earth line, which slows down the measure and scale of communication system until up in line centers. I line directions, set course centers, and 9 line centers of travel communication. 9 center line centers of signal location system multi-convergence. Rotate the routers all together and set lines of position. All right? Back to the failsafe, back in setting, back in operation. We got a dot. Where'd that come in? Where'd that dot come from? What's going on? Something's coming in. Whoa, what's that? What's happening here? What is that? Change position timeline, centers of frame communication setting. Operation sequence lines of travel, direct lines of grounds, formula line rotations of travel communications positions to its convergence. Turning black in screen location. Oh, we got this. What's going on here? What's happening there? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Okay? So you see a hallway, right? Hallway within a hallway within a hallway within a hallway. So when you open up that door, it changes all frames, a supposition of seconds, minutes, and hours and fractions. Now everything around the system would be nothing but galaxy itself, in suppositional levels of its void. Whoa, where did that come from? I wasn't there before. Oh, what's that? That just popped in. My goodness, what's going on here? Woo! We having fun that position location? Now we understand the indication of that in travel. All right. So I like to have fun with this because that's what it's all about. And this is what you do with the inner child. It's just having fun and an ongoing existence that keeps evolving its system all through schematics of its online communication of its travel. All right. So I hope you guys had fun with that. I like to make it a little bit more easier, break the ice in that positional case doing cycle and start to recognize how powerful of what you guys can do when you wake up to the real universal reality that you never left in its position to its setting. All right. See you in 5.